Victor Stagnaro with the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation. I've been with the foundation for nearly 5 years. I've had the privilege of overseeing the fire programs for the organization. Prior to that, I spent nearly 25 years with the Prince George's County Fire Department. I use this line a lot. It's something that just kind of keeps me in front of me. It's an old Harry Truman quote. He said, there's 100 people that can do this job better than me, but it's mine to do. And I keep that on the forefront because I realize there's an enormous amount of talent and a lot of people that could do this job a whole lot better than me. But I have the privilege of doing it and overseeing it on behalf of the foundation. A couple of things we want to try to cover today. Really my three main objectives is that you'll learn a little something about the foundation that you didn't know before. You'll get an understanding of the resources that are available through the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation and the Everyone Goes Home program. And we're going to talk a little bit about leadership, the role of the company officer, and the role that different leaders may have in an organization to prevent line of duty death. The foundation was created in 1992. We're one of two organizations created by Congress, the first one being the Red Cross. When they created us in 92, they didn't provide any funding. They just created us with the mission of trying to honor fallen firefighters and help their families rebuild. Since then, we've also recognized the fact that firefighters are also survivors, and we need to do some work to support the fire service when they have a line of duty death. And then we work with the communities to reduce firefighter death and injury. We're a nonprofit organization headquartered out of Emmitsburg, Maryland. In a nutshell, our mission is to honor, assist, and prevent is what we do. We have 3,800 names on the memorial since 1981, and it's a pretty rare moment when you can get it to Emmitsburg and see the memorial there and not see the flags flying at half-staff. Every 78 hours, a firefighter dies in the line of duty. That doesn't count the number of injuries, career-ending injuries in many cases. So it's something we want to try to reduce. Some of the ways that we help families are through our survivor benefits programs. We have a website that has all the local benefits as well as the federal benefits listed on there. We've provided scholarships through donations to over $2 million since its inception. Some peer counseling and family programs that in order to provide assistance to the families. Of course, we're on the heels of the Memorial Weekend where 107 firefighters were honored. We handle all the transportation, and we couldn't do that without the support of all the Maryland chiefs who manage the transportation and all the local fire departments throughout the region that provide an enormous amount of assistance. We do workshops, resiliency programs, wellness programs for the survivors. We're going to have an annual Fire Service Survivors Conference. We've done that in a different city throughout the country. This year it's going to be in Annapolis sometime between May and early June. We'll be looking again to our fire service community to help us out with that. As I mentioned, this 2014 memorial service, we had 532 new survivors representing 107 firefighters whose loved one was honored. We in the fire service, I think we comprehend a lot about that peer-to-peer component. As it was mentioned yesterday in Gordon Graham's piece when he talks about the lieutenant that he had to work for and dealing with somebody who's not walked in his shoes. One of the things that we're able to bring 235 returning survivors whose loved one has already been honored. And they embrace those new families, kind of guide them through the weekend, explain to them what to expect, and it's a really huge component. 2,600 volunteers, including escorts, honor guard, pipe, command staff, operations staff that help us pull off the Memorial Weekend every year. I had the very good opportunity to receive a donation check from a motorcycle group that did some benevolent work, and they decided they wanted to provide the funds to the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation. I had a guy that's about 6'5", wearing his leathers, lots of tattoos, pretty grizzled kind of guy. And when we went to do the check presentation, we we had a picture taken, and all the motorcycle group stood behind me, and the guy stood right behind me, and he leaned over in my ear and he said, "Are you comfortable with me standing behind you?" And I had to think about that for a second. And I thought, yesterday, Chief Goddard was kind enough to present and mention the work that the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation does. But it was 2,600 people that were standing behind us over the Memorial Weekend. It was that motorcycle group that provided funding so that we can bring those survivors out. So yeah, I'm comfortable with that. And we get the thank yous quite often, but that thank you reflects all the way back to everybody who supports us. And we're very grateful for that level of support. We couldn't do it without them. These are the images that are repeated year after year. For us at the foundation, it's really a reset point as to why we do what we do. And I mentioned earlier, I count myself privileged to be able to work for the Fallen Firefighters Foundation because it's mission-oriented. We can check our egos at the door. When things, in the midst of all the politics and different things that you have to deal with, you stop and remember the mission, and you can put all that aside. And we realize that even as a reset point for us, we think it really needs to be a reset point for the fire service industry to really focus on firefighter safety and how to prevent. The fact of the matter is we want fewer families to come to Emmitsburg. We want fewer names to be added to the wall. One of the things that we do, one of the ways we reach out to the community, to the survivors, is through our local assistant state teams. Their mission to reach out to a fire department within 6 hours after they learn of a line of duty death and offer assistance to that department. They can do anything from preparations for funerals, all the different aspects of arranging for the funeral, getting dress uniforms for the deceased if that's what the family desires and the department can't provide it. One of the other missions is to try to make sure that the appropriate paperwork is completed so the family will receive the public safety officer benefit that they would be entitled to. We're very fortunate to have a great relationship with the public safety officer benefits director, Hope Yanka, and her staff. They were actually at the memorial this past weekend, and I give them a lot of credit. They have done a lot of work to try to reach out to the fire service and understand what the fire service is all about. I think across the country, because they're primarily lawyers and that they work in Washington, D.C., they automatically get a bad rap. But the fact of the matter is their desire is to provide that benefit for the family and to try to work through whatever issues are there. And one of the values of the local assistant state teams is that they can help provide that paperwork in such a way that it will be clearly understood by the folks at PSOB when they receive it. So they're a great resource to utilize. In 2001, Chief Ron Sarnicki became the executive director of the foundation, and just a few months later, of course, 9/11 occurred, and he understood the need to have boots on the ground in New York, being proactive, connecting with the families. We connected with the counseling unit of FDNY, and ever since then have had a terrific relationship. It was through events like that one and the images that we just saw that the chief and the board of directors decided, we need to do more to try to prevent line of duty deaths. We need to get more involved with the prevention piece of it. And so in 2004, they held a summit down in Tampa, Florida, and about 200, a little bit over 200 people showed up, and every fire service organization was there. And they broke out into the 6 domains. Essentially, these were the 6 breakout groups where they discussed those particular elements. You can read them for yourself. I won't read them for you. And that's those, for the day and a half that they were there, they discussed these issues and decided what would be the appropriate plan to move forward to try to prevent line of duty deaths. And that's where the 16 firefighter life safety initiatives were born or developed. A lot of the groups came up with very similar initiatives. The issue related to cultural change, our listed number 1 initiative was something that several of the groups discussed, but ultimately it was all 16 that were developed. And I've had the opportunity to meet with some folks from the NFPA. One of our one of our initiatives is to try to embed the appropriate initiative with the appropriate NFPA standard. And we had a discussion about initiatives, about standards, and the discussion went something about, if somebody came to us and said, I've got this special thing that's going to prevent line of duty deaths, and we're going to be able to, maybe not the first year, but maybe the second year, instead of having a memorial service, we're going to have a celebration that there was no line of duty deaths that particular year. Would you take that? Would you take that? I think so. More than likely, everybody would nod their heads. But guess what? You're going to have to do away with the initiatives. You're going to have to do away with the standards. That has to go away. We've got this other thing. Absolutely, take them away if you have something that's good. But the fact of the matter is, the best minds in the fire service have gotten together and decided through the standards and through the initiatives is the best way to reduce line of duty deaths. So I don't think they're going to go anywhere anytime soon. So the initiatives were developed, and right around the same time, the federal government offered the SAFER grants for the fire departments and for organizations, and that's where the Everyone Goes Home program was born. If you go to our website, our Life Safety Initiative, or lifesafetyinitiative.com website, you'll see a listing of all 16 initiatives. If you click on the top, you'll get all kinds of research information. We had some college interns that went out, did a tremendous amount of research, finding articles, best practices, EFO papers, and those kinds of things about each particular initiative. All that's populated there so you can get more information. And on the bottom is some of the work that the foundation has done with each particular initiative. And there's a white paper back in 2007. A white paper was developed for every single initiative, and you can find that information there as well. Some of the other programs that we have, through our advocate program, we have advocates across the country that help push the message, push the initiatives. Some of the things that they've been successful with, for example, in the state of Texas, every firefighter in the state of Texas has to have the Courage to Be Safe program that outlines the 16 initiatives, talks about personal safety, personal responsibility, and organizational responsibility. By the year 2015, by the end of next year, every firefighter in the state of Texas will have to have had the course, and every new firefighter coming on will have to have it. In the state of Ohio, just over the last 6 or 7 months, they mandated the Courage to Be Safe program by law for every firefighter. And those are things that the advocates have been involved with and been able to push at the grassroots level. So great resource for the Everyone Goes Home program. We've done a lot with training development. We have a Firehero learning network that's been developed, and I'll talk about that. And of course, everything we do, we try to do it with partnerships, and everything we do is focused back on one or several of those initiatives. This is actually the lower page. If you go to the website and you click on the advocate page, on the top of the page there's a map of the United States. You can click on your particular state and you can see who your advocates are. But I wanted to highlight this one because if you look at Region 3, you'll note that Assistant Chief Joanne Rund is our regional advocate. She does that on her own time. It's not, she just volunteers to do that because she believes in the mission. If you have anybody in your organization or if you're personally interested in becoming an advocate, she would be a great resource to contact and get some more information. As I mentioned, our Courage to Be Safe program, which has been mandated actually several states across the country, it outlines the 16 initiatives. There's a great and really rich discussion on safety culture and the impact of firefighter fatalities. We have a video on there from a dad who's lost his son in the line of duty. It talks about some of the missteps that the department made when they made that notification, and you really get a sense of the loss when a firefighter dies in the line of duty. It's a pretty compelling piece, and actually I have one extra D on there, don't I? So it's a different program from the one I was showing in the other room, so it's going to be a little different. But it's a really good course, and like I said, it outlines the 16 initiatives. One of our other courses is called Leadership, Accountability, Culture, and Knowledge. It addresses each of those elements, how they need to be addressed in order to reduce line of duty deaths, and a really rich discussion on unsafe acts. So it's your opportunity to talk to me now. This is a snapshot, and I realize we're just looking at a couple of pictures, a moment in time where 2 captains were killed in the line of duty. When you look at this, and after seeing Gordon Graham's presentation yesterday, What comes to mind? What are some failures here that may have led to a line of duty death and this kind of event? Lack of attention by the officer who wasn't paying attention to what was going on. Yeah, maybe a leadership failure here, more than likely. What else comes to mind? Maybe a driver training issue.
What was their experience, skill level? What was their clearance? I mean, I don't know where this particular case was. So
right.
Were these 16-year-olds or were these 50-year-olds?
Right. Maybe a driver training issue. If you note, it appears that there's a traffic light there, so there was obviously an intersection, so maybe some policies related to an intersection or maybe a lack of training when it came to it, for sure. Anything else come to mind? Crew resource management. How does crew resource management, yeah, see something, say something. So somebody somewhere along the line probably noted that something bad was happening. I heard a story just recently in a particular department where there was a captain who it was known that he would push his crews, push the driver to try to beat the next people in to get there fast. Culture issue there. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Well, an engineer gets transferred to that particular company where it's pretty well-known fact, at least at the firehouse level, that there's an issue with this captain and he's driving everybody, really trying to push them, and loves to beat people into their first through areas whenever possible. They get put out on a house fire, second arriving engine company, and the captain's just hammering this guy. Come on, drive faster, drive faster. What are you, grandmother? You need to drive faster. Engineer pulls over, says, why don't you drive this piece? Just pulls over, stops the vehicle. Really a pretty courageous act, but what kind of position does that put the captain in? So obviously a lot of write-ups, a lot of disciplinary issues. The captain ends up getting demoted. And then there's some other issues because nobody said anything. This was allowed to go on for quite some time. One of the other things we covered in that leadership, accountability, culture, knowledge class is the root causes. The foundation went through over about 1,000 autopsy and statement of circumstance reports and determined that each one of these 6 root causes was a contributor to a firefighter fatality. In some cases it may have been one, in many cases it was multiple incidents. Has anybody seen this video? Yeah, I'll show it to you one more time. How about here when it comes to failures, leadership failures? What do you think? When we were talking about the root causes on that, what do you think? What comes to mind as some potential root causes of that? Training? Well, wait a minute now. That firefighter clearly knew how to heel a ladder.
But he wasn't paying attention to what was going on.
Right.
And the other thing is, maybe that's the improper way to heel the ladder. Maybe be in the front with your foot on the rung rather than in the back and not seeing what's going on.
So there's clearly a training piece, or maybe he was never told, or maybe at the training academy they show him how to heel a ladder, but they never actually have somebody climb the ladder and make sure that they're off the ladder before they go. What else? Any other thoughts as far as a root cause on that? Yeah, a lack of decision making. Definitely a poor decision made. So and I think I think you brought it up as he approaches. Now I don't know who this firefighter is. I've never had a discussion with him, and I realize it's just a snapshot in time. There may be a whole lot of information that we don't know, but he does have a kind of a lackadaisical attitude about it. Apparently, it appears that way, especially after he comes up. Something so benign, something that we do every day on a fire, can have some pretty significant consequences, and And one of the things I found when I was still with the fire department, every safety violation that I could point out were things that we learned in Firefighter 1. They're pretty basic stuff that we miss. One of our other courses is called Leadership So Everyone Goes Home. Talks about that leadership, how leadership needs to really be moving forward to enforce rules. It talks a lot about the technical fix. Technical fixes can be helpful. You can have a policy on seatbelts, but if you don't move towards that adaptive challenge and adaptive change, then we're really failing. we ask our manufacturers to come up with technical fixes to set off alarms when we don't have somebody who's properly seat belted in. But of course, firefighters will find a way around that. How many times have we heard of stories where they run the seatbelt around and click it in so that they think there's somebody so the alarm will not go off. That's gone from a technical fix. We really need to move towards adaptive challenges and adaptive fixes to the problems. There's 4 case studies that are covered in that. One's a heart attack incident. One is a vehicle accident where 2 chief officers roll a fire truck not wearing their seatbelts. Another vehicle accident where they're driving a piece of reserve apparatus that doesn't really meet the standards, and a firefighter ends up getting ejected from a vehicle. And then there's, if you remember the Chicago incident several years ago, right around Christmas time, where they ran a fire into a vacant building, known to have lots of code violations, and the building comes down on a couple of firefighters. One of the things that we did when we rolled this program out, we had all those fire departments come and review the program to make sure we were accurate and that we were not pointing fingers. And one of the things the Chicago folks told us about was on that particular incident, the crews knew the fire was just about out, a very large building, and one of the things some of the company officers started to do is take advantage of the fact that they had this very large vacant building and started doing some forcible entry drills, some ventilation drills, breaching walls and different things. And when I heard that, I almost thought, well, you almost want to give them a pat on the back. They'd taken advantage of a unique opportunity to do some training, but they didn't notify anybody. They didn't understand the other risks that were going on and what else was going on, and the building ends up coming down on these guys. Pretty horrific event. So for our classroom training portions that we offer, our Courage to be Safe, our LAC course, Leadership So Everyone Goes Home. Taking Care of Our Own is a 8-hour course where we bring in a survivor who's had a line of duty, a chief who's had a line of duty death, and a behavioral health specialist. The chief talks about the challenges that they underwent when they had that line of duty death, the things that they had to be prepared to do, or maybe in some cases were unprepared to do when they knock on that door and make that notification. So the survivor talks about getting that notification, some of the things the department did right, some of the things the department may have done wrong when they were notified, and how they were cared for or not cared for. And then that behavioral health specialist comes in and tells us about the things you need to have in your back pocket to be prepared for that kind of event. How are you going to care for that family? How are you going to make sure that the department keeps running? Obviously, 911 calls continue to come in, so you have to keep the department focused on managing day-to-day incidents. And it really compels everybody to have a plan to deal with a serious injury or line of duty death. It's a very good course. We have one on community risk reduction, and we just recently completed a course on response to violent incident. Chief from Hartford, Connecticut, developed that course. He presented it to the department that responded to Sandy Hook just a few years ago. I was a little concerned when he decided he wanted to do that. He called and asked if that would be okay. He's got a great relationship with the chief there, so we ended up doing that, and he got some really good responses back. So a little validity that the course seems to be right on target. We're getting ready to roll that out. So if you go to our everyonegoeshome.com website, go to the training piece. All our training components are there, including the Firehero Learning Network, which I'll get into in a little bit. So everything's there. If you want the classroom portion, when you go to the website, you can click on there. You'll fill out a form and submit that course if you want us to come out and deliver it. We also understand that sometimes having somebody that's more than 50 miles away from your department is automatically an expert. So if that's something you want, we can bring in people from outside the area if you want somebody that's not local to come in and teach some of those courses. Done a lot with the Seatbelt Pledge. If you go to the Seatbelt Pledge or the website where you can download the form, sign it, email it, or fax it to us, we'll include your department on the website, and we'll try to get the certificate of compliance out to you. If you need a reminder on the value of seatbelts,
Fully crossing red.
Show it to you one more time.
Private house.
If you were focusing on the one side and not the other, if you'll note, they have a green light as they go. The driver is not wearing a seatbelt. The officer is wearing a seatbelt. Pretty horrific event. They're actually responding.
Private house.
They have the lights on, but the siren's not on. And they do clearly have the green light. So when it comes to root causes, what do you think some failures are here? What comes to mind? Lack of following procedures? And say again? And following the law. Yeah, actually, this is a department that I know has a policy related to wearing seatbelts. They are mandated, and they're in a state that requires them to have a seatbelt on. So yeah, there's certainly a failure there. Now, in some cases, you might put this down as an unpredictable event, potentially, because they did have the green light. However, they did not have their siren on. So, would you write this up as an avoidable accident or unavoidable accident? Say again? All six? Yeah. I think it probably does make the entire rotation there. I agree. Yeah. Yeah, that would be good. They'll usually give the fire department the benefit of the doubt. I'll give you that. Here we go. Sound?
But we both rely on custom precision machinery to get us where we're going. And a small mistake, or a fraction of a second, can be the difference between life and death. Like these firefighters, my family expects me to come home from my job. I wouldn't think for a moment about getting in this bad boy without my seatbelts and other safety devices. I can't imagine anyone getting into one of these trucks without buckling up. And watch your speed so you can maintain control. If I don't cross the finish line, I don't win. And if you don't get to the scene, everybody loses.
By the way, that sticker was developed right here in Howard County. One of the command officers, who's retired now, developed that sticker for us. If you saw that ladder truck, that tiller truck that rolled over, you've probably seen that before. It's Raleigh Fire Department. They did a video as a result of that incident. Chief John McGrath, he's the chief in Raleigh. He's a former deputy commissioner in Philadelphia before he became the chief in Raleigh. He also serves as our incident commander for the Memorial Weekend. A couple years ago, we were talking about that rollover in the video that they did. And the question came up, so what did you tell those guys the first time you spoke to them? And he had seen the video. He had a discussion with the police department. He knew that they ran the red light. He knew that there was a speed issue when they responded and when they rolled that ladder truck. And as a chief officer, one of the first things I thought of, and I wish I had come up with what he came up with, but I'm thinking, these guys are going to get hammered. The entire weight of discipline is coming down on these guys. They wrecked a $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 piece of fire apparatus. They were speeding. Turns out they also had a seatbelt issue on board. And so the question came up, what did you tell them? First thing he says, I told them, I give you permission to forgive yourselves. It disarmed me when I heard that, and I thought, that's pretty smart. I wish I'd have come up with that. The second thing he told them was, you're going to be the poster children to make this fire department the safest fire department in the country. And then they went out, they researched who had the best tiller training in the country. They determined that Seattle Fire Department was doing a really good job of training tillermen, or tiller, how to drive tiller apparatus. They sent people out to Seattle, and then they had Seattle come out, and every firefighter who drives a tiller truck in the city of Raleigh goes through that very extensive training. So the other piece that really demonstrated was, there's a certain amount of ownership to that issue as the chief. Not only did he give them permission to forgive themselves, which, by the way, if you've seen the video, you see the driver of that fire apparatus telling the story of being at the hospital and watching these families come in, and with emotion in his throat, he says, they're here because of what I did. And he senses that guilt of almost killing that crew. So for the chief to say, I give you permission to forgive yourself, I thought was extraordinarily valuable. But then he also goes on and takes a little bit of ownership himself, realizing, maybe there's things we as an organization failed to do to prevent that kind of thing from happening. And they went out and developed a training program, and then they put out a video so that everybody else can see it. Really valuable piece, I thought, for the fire service and for me in particular. One of our other programs that we have, it's called Be a Hero, Save a Hero. It's our community risk reduction outreach program. We have a seatbelt pledge on the website for citizens to take a pledge. KIDA is one of our sponsors for that. They will often do some kind of sponsorship program, give a discount for anybody who wants to change their smoke alarm. We're asking departments to adopt that as a potential theme for their community risk reduction, and it's our outreach to the community. Fact is that if you don't have a fire, then firefighters don't need to die to come out and put those fires out. One of the other really valuable pieces that we've had and we've had some success with is a number of documentaries that we've done. We did 2 with the Department of FDNY in New York, and we've done 1 in Chicago. We more recently did 1 with the wildland community, of wildland firefighting. The Denver Fire Department, we also have, and you'll see a clip of that at the end, but let me show you this short piece, kind of highlights some of the things that we've done.
Everything we do has the firefighter's safety as our paramount concern.
Our duty is to protect the lives of the public. That's what they expect, and that's what they deserve from us. But we need to do it safely.
This is a different era between terrorism, fire dynamics, fire growth.
The fires are way more volatile than ever before.
We want you to take risks, you're firefighters, but we want you to do it safely.
It's the smart firefighter that gets the job done, wears his protective gear properly, and comes home safe. Now you just captured it all.
So I was in a situation. It occurred to me that I have this tool that we've been trained to use, the personal safety system. Just like we're trained at the Rock, I went through the motions and it worked. I didn't appreciate this tool before. Now, after being in a situation where I needed it, I would have jumped out the window if I didn't have the thing. That's a fact.
We got 15 feet in, and I found the crib. There was no baby, and conditions just deteriorated. It's kind of like a little bit of a punch in the face, made me stop dead in my tracks. And it was the high heat, real loud noise. It's kind of like a freight train. It was almost paralyzing mentally and physically. We've been to a lot of fires in the projects, and this one was different.
As an incident commander down in Rockaway, when I had those Maydays, it's a really helpless feeling standing out in the street and knowing members are not only lost or missing, but they're being affected by the fire. They are being affected by the heat. They are not only asking for help, they're screaming for help. The words were, "We're burning, Chief, help us." That's a lonely feeling.
All of a sudden, all hell broke loose. What I mean by is, I heard a female screaming. I've never heard screaming like this before. It was blood curdling. And with that, everything went real orange, real fast.
Knocked my helmet off. I had 3rd-degree burns. I had skin grafts. I was almost put off the job. I don't want anybody to have that helpless feeling like I had that day. Wear your PPE.
Guy's still yelling, hollering. I followed the left wall. It led me into this kitchen and passed through the kitchen into the back room where the guy was at the back window. Look out the back window, no fire escapes, no portable ladders. Make our way through the back bedroom, through the kitchen again, get to that front room. The front room just totally roaring with fire, floor to ceiling. It was like somebody turned the lights on. It just went as fast as I could with this guy, and we ran right to that window, threw him out, and I jumped out.
I needed a little help getting to the ambulance. I just didn't feel right. Took a couple of hits of oxygen, and I was out. I was airlifted from Kings County to the hyperbaric chamber. I was given last rites.
My backup man and myself, we both, were yelling to each other. We were getting burned, but we knew there were people above. We knew we had to keep pushing in. I spent 2 weeks in the burn unit and then about 5 months with medical leave and light duty. The night I got back to the firehouse and I was putting my gear out on the rig, and I saw my face piece, and it had swirls on the left side, and it was melted.
Serious fires, dangerous fires will always happen in this city. There's no way around it. We have to be prepared to do that type of work. It's not going to change.
Once you roll out on the fire truck, you must know how to operate every piece of equipment on that fire apparatus. And if you don't, it's a shame on you.
Terrorist attacks on 9/11 hit us really hard.
From the time I went into the World Trade Center until the time I came out of the rubble, the world changed.
We didn't give up. There were leaders that arose that day. I can remember it being dark and windy, and then it changed. There was a little bit of light, and it was a chief standing up, gathering guys around him, and leading us back.
We were faced with enormous challenges and grief and bereavement, and we overcame all of that. I was never so proud to be a fireman as I was that day.
Come a long way, you know, from tragedy, you know, untold tragedy. And we're back, you know, we're back stronger than ever.
As a department, we come to work every day fully aware that this could happen again. And we train to that end. And we take these guys seriously. They're not messing around, and neither are we.
That video's a little bit dated. It was put out in 2011 as we commemorated the 10 years of those horrible days in 2001. That was rolled out at the Firehouse Expo in Baltimore, and that was the clip that was used as kind of the teaser as we got ready to roll out that video. One of the things I appreciate about the video, and I think something that we need to really focus on, those of us who are really focused on the issue of firefighter safety, is there's a lot of people within our industry that are saying, if you're into safety, if you're pushing the firefighter safety, somehow you're weak, somehow you're cowardly or something like that. And the fact is, when we show those kinds of clips where you have some senior firefighters who clearly are all about going in and getting a fire if they need to do that, but talking about doing it safely. That captain that you saw that had the skin grafts and the injuries, that was related to a chin strap. He wasn't wearing his chin strap. Helmet came off, ended up becoming pretty seriously injured, and now he's telling the story. Hey, you need to put on your chin strap. I had the good fortune early on in my career not only to work for some really good officers that were very safety-minded, but to have some senior firefighters who also were very senior-minded or very safety-minded. And these were not guys that I wanted them to come out and date my sister. In fact, I really didn't want them to come out and date my sister. These were not people that would coddle you. They were in your face, and when you weren't wearing your hood or you weren't buckled up properly, they'd get in your face about it. So these are not weak people, and I don't think we should allow people to define people that are, those of us who are pushing firefighter safety and being smart about it, to define us as anything other than true firefighters. So a lot of those resources, if you go to the Everyone Goes Home website, you go under resources, you hit video resources, and that's where you'll find all those videos. They're downloadable. This is the bottom of the page. You can go to also on the YouTube site. We have all those videos there, or you can download them, use them for whatever training. A great opportunity for during lunch or dinner, just to throw that on. Have some great kitchen table discussion afterwards. And that's all on the FireHeroLearningNetwork.com. Oh no, let me go to that. That's on the Everyone Goes Home site. So on the Fire Hero Learning Network, I want to highlight the checklist real quick. And you do, if you go to the Learning Network, you do have to log in. You have to create a profile. I promise you, you will not get any spam mail from the foundation or from the network. The only emails you'll get are when there's a new program that goes live, just notifying you that it went live. On the Learning Network, we have the Courage to be Safe, Leadership Accountability, Culture and Knowledge, After Action Review, Creating Change in the Fire Service, which is a tabletop discussion with some leadership from across the country talking about what it takes to create change. Our Curbside Manner, Stress First Aid for the Streets, it outlines, it's part of our behavioral health program. It outlines the things that we do for our citizens when we run an incident or maybe or an EMS incident or a fire incident, the things that we do to care for them, to empower them, to cover them, and protect them, to make them feel comfortable about what's going on and try to get them the help that they need. And then on our Stress First Aid Awareness course, it outlines the same things, but in such a way that we need to be looking out for one another. What firefighters should be doing, the same things we covered in the first one, but how we can look out for one another from a behavioral health standpoint. And then the Taking Care of Our Own course just went live on the Learning Network about a week and a half ago. I mentioned this checklist. We brought in people from across the country to help us develop an incident checklist for all these different disciplines that are listed up there. And the idea here is not that firefighters are going to get off a fire truck and fight fires using it and checking off a box as they go. But a couple of things, there are several departments across the country, especially at the incident command level, that utilize a checklist to make sure they're hitting certain benchmarks. So what this does is when you go on the website, you can choose the checklist items that you like. So it's customizable. You don't have to have them all. The ones that are listed, you can check the one you want, and it'll populate it on that sheet. You can put your own department logo on there if you'd like, and then you save it and download it and use that. In some cases, we've had departments that have decided you're going to use just one single check sheet, at least for a time, for all our incident commanders, our battalion chiefs, because there's certain benchmarks that we want to make sure they're capturing. We also had an incident a story where a fire engineer, a senior fire engineer driving apparatus in a department in Ohio, mentioned that he had got a brand new lieutenant coming in, and he posted all these Post-it notes all inside the cab. So when he got up in the cab, there were certain things he wanted to make sure he remembered as he's going down the road. Well, a checklist would be able to help with that. Again, it's a tool appropriately used to trigger your thoughts and the things you want to make sure you capture as you're responding. It's not going to put out fires. Obviously, we need firefighters knowing their job and going in and extinguishing fires, but we think a checklist will be able to be a big help to try to prevent line-of-duty deaths. I talked a little bit about our behavioral health program. You can get all that information on the website, all the training programs that we offer. Curbside Manner, Stress First Aid for the Streets, which I already talked a little bit about, the Stress First Aid Awareness Program. And one of the first times we delivered the Stress First Aid Awareness Program, I had a 2-year firefighter come up to me, and he said, I had an incident very early on in my career where we had 2 children killed and both their parents, they're both very young, about the same age as I am. I've been having nightmares ever since. I didn't realize that was probably something I should be concerned about. But that awareness program at least raised the flag to say, sometimes there's things you need to be aware of. There's things that might be going on in your life that you need to be addressed. And so that awareness program really helps with that. And then the Stress First Aid piece, that peer-to-peer, if you're in a peer-to-peer element or you have a peer group that helps with the Stress First Aid, or you're administrating the course, then we can come out and deliver the course for you. I left After Action Review out, but one of the things, and I didn't really understand how it fits in with our behavioral health program, but our After Action Review covers the 5 questions we ask during an after action. What was our mission? What went well? What could we have done better, and what might have we done differently, and who needs to know? And I didn't understand how After Action Review has anything to do with behavioral health. It's clearly an operational issue, and it is, but the fact is the best thing we can do for our firefighters is be operationally sound. If we have an incident that has a bad outcome at the end, but from an operations standpoint you did everything right, firefighters can step away from that knowing that, well, we did everything we could, and we did everything as well as we could, and it still had a bad outcome. But we've all been on those incidents where it's a train wreck. It's very chaotic on the scene, and firefighters will step away from those types of incidents with a bad outcome, questioning themselves, questioning their leadership, the administration, and from a behavioral health standpoint, that's not where you want to be. So we really want to focus on that after action review. It is a key to operational excellence. If you really want to get into a minutia of an incident, and I know in my department we had some legendary officers that everybody looked up to, and the way they operated, the way they put their gloves on while they're responding down on an incident was so intentional. And you'd get on the scene and the hose line was perfectly laid out. On a garden apartment, it would be up against the walls so that it wouldn't trip up the other firefighters. One of the things we regularly did was break out the windows on those garden apartments, those openings. They would have a salvage cover over the hose line before the windows were taken out, and then they could take all the glass out so you wouldn't char the hose lines. Those kinds of operational excellent moves are learned through people who are really great at our trade, as one of the ways that we can pass that on is through an after-action review. All the courses, as I mentioned, are on the website. We've done some work with behavioral health assistance programs. If you're interested or looking to bid that out, or departments that are looking to get more information, we offer some guidelines when you're looking for that kind of a program. And then if you have clinicians in your department or new folks that are in EAP that have never worked with the fire service, through our Helping Heroes network, it's actually in partnership with the Medical University of South Carolina. We've developed a training course. Clinicians can get continuing education credits for it, and it gives them a brief education as to what it's like to deal with the fire department or the firefighters, and the dark humor and the things that they'll confront when they're helping firefighters out. A little bit on our vulnerability assessment program. It was rolled out back in March. It's a program where chiefs can go on, or in some cases you might want a committee to go on and answer about 480 questions related to your department. It covers the root causes that we talked about earlier. It breaks down and it gives you a rating as to if you have a high hazard or moderate hazard or low hazard in that particular area. At the end of that report, it gives you information as to where you can go, NFPA standards, articles, best practices to try to shore up those areas. And it also gives you an opportunity, if you need that in order to provide funding for a certain area where it demonstrates that you have a high hazard. If you want to go back to city managers and say, this has gone through, it's been vetted through all kinds of organizations, and it might be a resource to be able to get more equipment, more training, more materials, and that's what the website looks like when you get to the landing page. It's a chief or a designee will go through, will confirm that the department actually wants the vulnerability assessment program done. We won't allow just anybody to go in and do it for your department, because otherwise we'd have all kinds of different answers and that kind of thing. So we try to vet it as much as we can. As we move forward into the Everyone Goes Home program, everything that we do is probably going to be focused back on our Tampa 2 Summit, which we just held back in March. What we did there is we had about 350 and all the 350 people in every fire service organization in attendance. We asked them to review the 16 firefighter life safety initiatives for relevancy, engage in some hot topic discussions, and then report back. These are the hot topic discussions, essentially the 10 breakout rooms or breakout sessions that were given, and everybody was asked to discuss their particular hot topic and come back and report back as to what kinds of activities or what kinds of things the fire service should be focused on in order to prevent line of duty deaths. And essentially the report's going to be out in the next week or two, but a lot on company officer development, a real recognition that we as an industry have not done a great job of preparing company officers to serve in that role. Working a lot on illnesses and diseases, a lot of emergent issues related to cancers and heart attacks. Continue work on the mental health issues and maybe focus a little more attention on issues related to technology. There are some things going on in the fire service related to technology, but a lot of other public safety and the military has done a lot more things with technology, and we think a lot of those things can be either adapted or new things can be created for the fire service to focus on line of duty death prevention. Talked a little bit about the culture and some of the things that we discussed. This is one of the definitions that we've provided related to culture. Essentially, we have a way of doing things and we pass it on to the next generation. And how often are we seeing that? And how often are we seeing in a training academy role where you get into a firehouse and you hear well, let me show you how it's done in the real world. I had a great discussion with the chief of training from the Denver Fire Department. He said, if I hear that, I'm at the station the next day saying, well, what are you doing? What are we teaching that's different from what you're doing out in the street? Because somewhere there's a disconnect. Thought that was a great answer. So as we look at culture, one of the things we've focused on, and this comes from Chief Compton, he's our chairman, of the board of directors. He's talked a little bit about, how we focus on culture, and what we need to be thinking about is the values in the fire service. So some of the things that are of value, certainly we focus on service. Actually, the first time I heard somebody complain about, hey, don't do anything with my culture, there's lots of good things about my culture. We're a culture of service. And it kind of made me draw back a little bit, and I had to think about it a little bit. Absolutely, that is a cultural piece that we want to maintain, maybe a value that we want to maintain in the fire service. But how about having fun at other people's expense? We actually had a bumper sticker on a fire truck once that said, "We're having fun at other people's expense." A little bit of a culture issue there. Sense of identity as a firefighter, I think that could be a value that we have. But how about that tough guy? Just, I don't care. You can't hurt me, and I don't care if I hurt you. That kind of mentality can be pretty prevalent sometimes in the fire service. Teamwork as opposed to the me, camaraderie, and the one-upmanship. We saw that picture earlier where the two fire trucks collided. That's one of the things that came to my mind was that, is that a one-upmanship type of issue where I'm just trying to beat you in your area as opposed to really focusing on the area of camaraderie. Compassion as opposed to the only game in town. How often have we run an EMS incident where you get what you get. You don't get to choose when we show up. So, we're the only game in town, and I don't really care what you think, as opposed to maybe having some compassion to those people that we've been sworn to serve. There's a fine line between courage and foolhardy, acceptance of personal risk, and being cavalier. Some of those areas related to safety, culture, and values. I think we really want to focus on those values of the fire service as we move forward. So I think some of our biggest challenges sometimes are those grizzled senior firefighters who don't want to change. And how can we really focus on this issue of culture and value? Why did the caveman write on the walls? Because he wanted to pass information on to the next generation. Again, let me touch on the issue related to a key to operational excellence being the after-action review. And lots of good officers have been doing this for a very, very long time. And so this is not new. We called them hot washes or critiques or whatever it might be. And this was emulated as I came up, and we had some very progressive thinking company officers or battalion chiefs who would bring in all their the first arriving companies after a fire, immediately after a fire, and do a quick hot wash. We had an incident where a fire truck arrived on the scene of a house fire. There was two vehicles parked out in front. He could see about 2 doors down where the fire was coming, and they decided we're going to just park the fire truck here. Their kids were coming in and out of the car. School was getting ready to start. The driver and the family was a little panicked about what they were seeing and these fire trucks showing up on their street. And so the company officer parked the vehicle. They ran a long hose line. They got the second arriving engine company to hand jack a line. Told the ladder truck, hey, you're not going to be able to come down this road. Find another way. So we did a hot wash on that, and the first arriving engine company officer explains what he experienced when he got there. And the other company officers, all of a sudden, you could almost see the light coming on. They're like, I was wondering why you did what you did, but now I understand. I can tell you, if we hadn't had that hot wash, I can tell you what I would have done if I was the second arriving engine company officer. I'd have gotten in the cab of that fire truck and been telling my crew, did you see what Stagnero did? What an idiot. Why would he park that apparatus there? It was just a great opportunity to smother any rumors or any issues, and it was done right there, and it gave everybody an understanding of what else was going on in that incident. One of the other things I really appreciate, and I think we all appreciate in the fire service, is that direct, no-nonsense kind of approach to certain things that we do. And I want to talk about that senior firefighter. They're able to bring that information out. It's another great opportunity to get that information, those things that those senior firefighters know about fighting fires that we can pass on to the next generation. This is just a really short clip. It's pretty direct.
If you think you got some good reason for not wearing this or for not doing things the right way, write it down, because I need to read that to your widow, because I'm not going to know what to say. You say it for me.
That comes from our Chicago video. Pete Van Dorp, another pretty tough guy, straight up, direct talk. great piece that he's given us. He's done a lot with the UL studies. He's now retired out of Chicago, but he's a great friend of the foundation, has done some training with us. And one of the things I appreciate about that, you can almost hear the emotion, the lump in his throat as he talks about, you decide, you tell me what I should tell your widow when you don't do the right thing. Again, another direct approach, another demonstration that people who are safety-minded are not weak people. A couple things on rites of passage. Let me zip through that. Lead by example. If you steal, lie, if you're not trustworthy, people will not trust you. If you're rude, disrespectful, people will be disrespectful to you. And control your attitude first. Anybody in here have teenage kids? Then you know what attitude is, right? How many times have you heard, I didn't say anything wrong, or I didn't do anything wrong, but it's all about a manner, a disposition, a feeling, or a position about a particular thing or life in general. You know when they've got the attitude. We as officers, we as leaders, we need to emulate that appropriate attitude. They develop over time, they can be negative, and everybody knows how contagious an attitude can be. So I want to show you this really quick clip. There's a, this is one of the programs we did with the Denver Fire Department, and you're not going to see much on Lieutenant Rich Montoya in this short clip, but this is on our website, and you can get more information. Firefighter Robert Crump was killed in the line of duty during a flash flood incident in the Denver area, where he wades into a flash flood area and gets whisked away and ends up drowning. The video clip that you'll see is his daughter that speaks about that particular incident. She's a firefighter in a neighboring jurisdiction. And then the other one that will be highlighted here is Assistant Chief Charles Drennan Jr. As an assistant chief with the Denver Fire Department, he noticed that one of his captains was behaving in such a way that it drew some concern. So he decided to call the captain after the shift, said, look, I want to come over just to kind of have a discussion, one-on-one, trying to do the right thing. Well, he goes to the captain's house. The captain guns and kills them and then takes the gun on himself and commits suicide. This happened on September 13th, 2001. It's probably an incident we would have all remembered, but we were so focused on what was going on. The other person you'll see videotaped on that, briefly discussing that incident, is his son, who is now the operations chief for the Denver Fire Department. And it highlights some of those components that we've talked about.
More than 900 firefighters strong, the Denver Fire Department has a long, rich tradition and a history of providing quality, timely, and professional emergency services to the people of the city and county of Denver. I'm Eric Tate, Chief of the Denver Fire Department, and like any large urban fire department, we've had our share of line-of-duty fatalities. And outside our department headquarters sits a memorial that lists the names of the firefighters who have made that ultimate sacrifice in service to the citizens of the city and county of Denver. Since the year 2000, we've added the names of Firefighter Robert Crump, Assistant Chief Charles Drennan Jr., and Lieutenant Rich Montoya to our memorial. More than 1,500 miles east of us, these same names now rest beside other heroic firefighters on the National Fallen Firefighters Memorial in Emmitsburg, Maryland. The Denver Fire Department and National Fallen Firefighters Foundation have a common goal: to honor these heroes and do our best to prevent other firefighters from dying in the line of duty. Founded in 1866, the Denver Fire Department also has a strong reputation of dedication to achieving the highest levels of preparedness, prevention, and community involvement.
Did you search the bag?
That reputation includes a diligent commitment to the safety of the citizens we serve and the firefighters who serve them. To do this, we must learn from our close calls and our losses. We honor those who have fallen by making sure their deaths are not in vain.
12 efforts on deck party, short of breath.
Our commitment stretches far and wide and focuses on personal safety.
If we would have been a second later getting into that intersection,
of the cab, I think we all would have died.
Behavioral health.
Denver lost 2 top firefighters.
We all have an obligation to act. I mean, notice those signs and notice those potential issues going on.
He's going to have to bring some more hand lights.
Individual size up.
They did not go in there knowing that anybody would be in the water. They were in full structural gear.
And safety leadership.
Nothing is routine. Even though it can seem routine, sometimes nothing is routine.
Leadership is the key element in firefighter safety. Leaders at every level of our department learn from the past to make the future safer for the citizens we serve and all firefighters. The Denver Fire Department's safety commitment is in place so everyone goes home.
We're on our way. Okay, we're going.
Will Norden has been a Denver firefighter since 1977. He's a captain on Truck 12, on the front line where lives are at stake and safety leadership is put into practice.
Mashed potatoes.
I always took on the responsibility of saying, hey, these are my friends and my family.
Anybody see him wash his hands?
No, I did not. If I get sick, it's going to be your fault, Roby.
It's up to me to make sure they're as safe as possible. And it doesn't change because this is a brotherhood and a sisterhood. It's an external family, but they mean almost as much to me as my daughter.
This is Captain Norden's daughter, Kelly. She is also on the job as a Denver firefighter.
My dad is my hero, you know? I always looked up to him. He leads by example and shows people how to do the right thing instead of just telling them and sitting back and watching.
But Kelly's decision to become a firefighter goes deeper than her father's inspiration. She is a survivor of the Columbine High School massacre in 1999.
I was a junior at Columbine High School when the shooting happened. I was sitting in math that day taking a test, and we heard weird noises. We heard popping sounds, and you know, I'd never heard gunshots or anything like that before, so I didn't know what it was. But somebody pulled the fire alarm, and we were all able to get out that way first.
Medical response at 1587 South.
Columbine was one of the reasons that I chose to come into the profession. I wanted to do more to help people and have more hands-on and be able to help immediately. It's really an honor to be able to do that.
The Denver Fire Department, a tradition of service and leadership, helping to ensure everyone goes home.
I think that clip covers a lot of the traditions, the values that we embrace in the fire service. The captain talking about his daughter and the crew being almost as important to him as his own daughter.